A little bit more of an introduction. Obviously, I know Noah, but I run a company called Retune Marketing, and I've been doing social media since before I was allowed to be on social media. So at 10 years old, I was building Facebook pages to thousands of likes. I didn't know it at the time, but it was a valuable skill to have. Later on, as I got older, I was able to scale an Instagram page to 70,000 followers. I was selling t-shirts, mugs. People were paying me to be featured on this page. And that's where I learned a lot about running ads, what hooks work on social media, and really studied how that all works. Now I run a content agency called Retune Marketing. I help businesses show up on social media, and I help them get leads as well as sell on social media. You guys not necessarily are entrepreneurs, but I think I've catered this talk to tech professionals and entrepreneurs in general, so you can kind of take little bits and pieces of this and implement it into your social media strategy. But first, we're going to ask some questions. So by a show of hands, how many people have social media here? Some type of social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Okay, so looks like everybody, Adam's on the fence about it, but how many people post semi-regularly? Maybe 2 times, 3 times a month? All right, so not many people. Like that was not many hands, and I'm going to tell a story about Noah. At that networking event that I met him at, Noah said to me, I really just don't think people care if I post on social media. And I was like, that is the best mentality to have, because it means you have nothing to lose. So the downside to posting on social media is that nobody cares. And Noah's right. It proves his point. Nobody cares. The upside is that somebody does care, and you make an impact in at least one person's life. So overall, if you're not posting on social media often, which is most of you in this room, I'm going to advocate today for you to start. Has anyone seen results from using social media? That's another question. Like, anybody gotten a job offer, closed a sale, client, anything like that? By show of hands, anybody who's done that? Okay, up some hands, so it's effective. But social media matters for several reasons, and the biggest one, I think, is the visibility. You could be the best engineer in this room, and if you're not out there, nobody would ever know. You could have designed the next Minecraft, next Call of Duty. You might have that game in your best productivity tool, and nobody knows about it if you're not posting about it. Opportunities is another thing. You can get job offers, leads. There's endless ways to use social media to your advantage if you're using it properly. And I think a lot of people use it as an advertisement, and that's not the way I suggest using social media. But another big piece of it is trust. People work with and buy from and hire people that they trust. If you're not trusted, you're not going to be hired, reached out to, and the biggest part of social media is being social on social and building that trust. Social media is not advertising, and part of that is that we're building relationships. I think a lot of small businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs, they go on social media and they post, hey, I'm doing this thing, I've got this offer, please buy from me. And then the next day they post the same thing, and then they wonder why nobody's listening the second time they posted an advertisement without giving any value. So I encourage all of you in this room to think about social media from a value standpoint. If you're focused on getting all the time, if you're focused on making a sale, getting a job, it's unlikely that it's going to work if that's your entire content strategy. So let's talk some mistakes to avoid first off before we get into the how to actually post on social. Things you should not be doing. First one, posting and ghosting. I think a lot of people, as I said, will go online, post something about an ad, and then they'll get off social media. They'll just hope. They'll hope and pray that social media works. That's not how social media has ever worked. since I've started building pages, the number one thing that has grown my accounts and helped me get leads, sell things online, has been interacting with other people. That's liking, commenting, and being genuine with other people. That's sending direct messages. And again, not being salesy, not overly pitching people, but rather building a relationship. So that's me saying, hey, Zach, I saw your post about Buffalo Open Coffee Club. Can you tell me more? And seeing what value he has out there. Asking questions about people that you are following and being engaging is far superior than posting and ghosting. So don't post and ghost. Using social media exclusively as ad platforms, I touched on that a bit. If you're just posting for the sake of trying to get a sale, it is unlikely you will get a sale. It is unlikely you'll get a job if you're posting, I'm looking for work, I'm looking for work. That looks desperate. You're not setting yourself up as an authority figure. So there's different ways to approach this, but the biggest thing is you have to provide value. So let's talk what to actually post on social media as opposed to what not to do. I have this rule called the Old McDonald Rule. And everybody knows the song, Old McDonald Had a Farm, E-I-E-I-O. So years ago, when I started working in social media, I needed a way to describe to people better ways of thinking about content and the types of content that they should post. So I came up with the Old McDonald Rule. And E-I-E-I-O is easy to remember. And it's a few different types of content, and these can be paired together and matched. The first one, entertainment, E. Pretty self-explanatory. That's television, that's movies, that's fun YouTube skits, that's music, that's art, right? It's easy content to see and consume on social media, and that's generally the first one that most people are seeing on social media. And I encourage anybody who's creating content to think of ways to be more entertaining in your content. Inspiration. So if you're not inspiring people through your content by motivating them, whether it is through music or your entertainment, and getting them to take an action, you're losing out on a major piece of your content. How can you inspire somebody to take action? Maybe it's education that you're using to inspire, which is the next E, right? So educating, pretty self-explanatory as well. If you're educating somebody about your product, your app, your software, how in depth, how much value can you give through social media from educating? Informing, that I refer to as like news sites. If you're repeating something, so if you saw OpenClaw has an update and you know more about OpenClaw than most people, go on social media, make a post informing people that there's an update and what it means. That's great content that not everybody has knowledge of. And I think that's another key part of this, is everybody in this room knows something that other people don't. And that's the stuff that you should be producing content around. But the most important part here is original. All of your content should include some originality. Right now there's a lot of AI content out there, and it all sucks as far as I've seen. I've seen graphics that are just not good. Everybody can tell. I'm starting to see a lot of people, a lot of my friends saying they won't go to events if they see an AI-generated flyer. So I think as we approach more AI being posted on social media, you guys think about AI a little bit differently, I'm sure, and you integrate it in a way that is more unique, and you are better at prompting it than most people. But if you're copying and pasting from LLMs for the sake of content, that's the lowest bar right now. Everybody can do that, and most people are doing that. You can stand out simply by having ChatGPT ask you questions about your business and then answer them with a video format or word format if you're not comfortable showing up on camera. That's going to be a far better way to create content than to copy and paste from an LLM. So, types of posts. I just went over a general overview of how you should be constructing your content. But there's different types of posts, and you got to balance these out. And I'll give you kind of percents, rough percents that will help you out with this. So I consider there to be 4 different types of posts. Some marketers will tell you more than that, but for the sake of ease, I'm going with 4. And the first one to talk about is reach posts. So things like hot takes, trends, stories, humors, behind the scenes. This is the stuff that you are asking, how can I get more eyes on my content? A lot of times these are those TikTok trends of you just found a band that does X, Y, or Z. And some of this stuff can be overly trendy and it might be tough to fit it to your brand. But reach posts are, generally speaking, pretty short, very consumable, bite-sized pieces of content that help you reach a broader audience than what you currently have right now. And the question that be asking yourself is, how do you get strangers to notice me on social media? You already have a following. I'm sure you connect with people on LinkedIn, but how do you connect with other people? How do you get outside of that market? Post number 2, authority posts. These are tutorials, lessons learned, case studies, breakdowns. This is educational content. This is the stuff that everybody in this room should be super capable at creating. All of you know so much about software and tech that you can go on LinkedIn and write a post every week and you'll be able to teach me something about tech, I'm sure. So if you're at a loss for content to create, authority posts are really easy, especially when you are a well-trained individual in a specific industry. Why should people listen to you? This is a really, if you're trying to get hired, rather than posting you're looking for work every single week, post it once, have all your friends share it, ask your friends to share your post, and then from there on, each week start posting content in your industry that you want to be getting into. Post content related to the job that you want. Post content to the clients that you want to secure. Relationship posts. This is where you build the trust. Relationships are everything on social media, as I was saying. These are founder stories, wins, failures, personal experiences. I feel like this is the bulk of good content on LinkedIn. So a lot of people will post, hey, I was just at this event, and that's a quick selfie with somebody, and then they tag somebody. The more people you can tag and incorporate into your social media posts, the better. You're building trust as a real human and showing that you can build relationships, which is a great reason that people should care, because if you know Noah and Zach and Adam and Nick, and you're posting about that, other people in their network sees it, and it levels up your brand as you go. Conversion posts. These are the posts that you should be doing the least, believe it or not, and I have found this time and time again. Not every post needs a call to action. If you are trying to sell something, if you're trying to get a job, if you're trying to get people to use your demo, if you have a hiring announcement, you should be posting about this maybe 10% of the time. So it's super easy to overwhelm people with content that is conversion. Nobody wants to be sold to on social media. Most people go there for entertainment. Even on platforms like LinkedIn, people are looking for entertainment or a distraction from work. Most of the time, LinkedIn's a distraction from work. So what do you want people to do? Ask yourself that question and engineer a thought process of what gives them value and then build a conversion post around it. So this is kind of my content split. I recommend 40% authority, 30% relationship, 20% reach, and then 10% conversion. So most of the time you're educating. The other times you're posting pics from events like Code and Coffee. Then you're doing quick reach posts that are really simple. Conversion posts, that's when you're asking. Your asks should be last after you've given solid value from that 40% authority. So what content works in tech? I spend a lot of time looking at social media accounts that work, and one that I came across over a year ago now is a game called The Sledding Game. And this was pretty cool. I stumbled upon this on Instagram. This Instagram reel blew up. It had millions of views on it. And all it was the creator of this game saying, I'm making a game about sledding with your friends. And this is the gameplay. And that was basically the majority of the video. And it had hundreds of comments of people suggesting features, giving feedback, asking when the demo is going to be. Because he did this, he was able to secure a deal with Xbox. He's won multiple awards before the game has even been released. The game was just released recently, but he had so many beta testers, and it was one of the most saved games on Steam. And this guy did this solely by making a single Instagram post and then following up on it. And I think this is a great example of what you guys can do for your apps, your systems, your services. Will it blow up to 1 million views? Maybe not. But if you get even 5 people watching, it's a better beta test than no one caring at all, right? So the next case study that I'll talk a little bit about is my client, The Gist. So these guys implement HubSpot systems for payroll companies. At this point, we're on track to make YouTube their biggest lead gen by the end of the year. They have 7,000 followers. And the reason I'm using this example is because 7,000 subscribers doesn't feel like a lot. A lot of people in this room probably assume that they need 10,000 to be even considered to close thousands of dollars worth of deals. But instead, my client is doing it with 7,000, and we grew the account from 300 to 7,000 in a very niche category. We're talking payroll companies that need HubSpot implementation services. It's super niche. We do tutorial videos. So you're following along, and then these people are like, I can't do this myself. So they reach out to The Gist, and then they eventually get high quality leads. And they're educated on the services that they implement, because at the end of the video, CJ says, if you want help implementing these, this is what we do. This is literally what we do day to day. And the reason I bring this up about him saying this is exactly what we do and teaching it on the internet is a lot of people are afraid that their idea is going to be stolen. If you have a great app idea and it's not trademarked, not copyrighted, you might be fearful that your IP is going to be taken. Someone's going to steal your idea and run with it. The truth is that I don't believe that in a world where someone steals your idea, they're going to work harder at your idea than you ever are. Like, I don't think stealing's a problem when it comes to worry about, because I think you're going to be more passionate about it. And if you are truthfully telling your audience and teaching your audience how to use whatever product or service or app that you're creating, you are more likely to generate leads who want the service done for them. So as I said, YouTube's positioned to become their largest lead source by the end of the year. And this is a company that does millions of dollars in revenue each year. From 7,000 subscribers, they are making thousands of dollars every month. So I have a 30-day challenge for everybody in this room. A lot of you said that you do not post on social media. I did not make it a post every day. I made it one educational post a week, one relationship post a week, and one conversation post. Every day, I do ask that you leave some comments, you engage. If you do this for 30 days, I would bet that you will close a meeting, you'll close a deal, you'll meet somebody from social media if you do it well. This is where you have to get good with your asks. If you're sliding into people's DMs, slide in well, be genuine, ask serious questions, and give value in all of that you're doing, right? So these meaningful comments, when you see a post, don't just say, oh, great job, great work, this is super interesting. Ask a question. I think everybody in here has some form of curiosity around the industries that they're in. If you want to connect with more people in that industry, ask them questions. Most people are happy to answer questions on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So that's my 30-day challenge for you. This is the key here is if you're posting content on social media, there's very little downside. So I truly believe that if you are putting good out into the world on social media, there's very little downside to sharing that. I have a free PDF that you can download from this QR code. It's 30 pages of my knowledge that I've written over the years and updated. It might be helpful for you if you are running socials yourself. I don't know if it will go back, but.
You click an X. There's an X in the upper right-hand corner.
Thank you. But it's called Control the Scroll. I built it over years, and it's all my social media knowledge, so it should be pretty helpful for you. So, cool. And any questions for social media, I'm happy to answer anything social media video related.
If you don't want to put social media apps on your phone because you're bad at self-control, can you do this from a computer? Can you do it from a separate device? What's your recommendation there?
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
So the question was, if you don't want social media apps on your phone, how can you work around this? Can you do this in a less distracting way? Which is a great question because social media is very distracting. So there are a lot of options, and I would recommend Meta Business Suite for Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook and Instagram are frequently linked well together, and Meta Business Suite allows you to post to both simultaneously, and it's through the back end of Facebook. So you're not even on Facebook or Instagram when you're sharing your content, and it's way less distracting, way less time consuming. But the only thing I would recommend doing then is making sure you set a timer for some engagement, and that way you're not posting and ghosting and hoping that somebody sees your content. As far as LinkedIn, there's also scheduling tools on there. You can use something like Buffer or Hootsuite. Those are also scheduling tools that you can use on desktop or mobile if you don't want to have the actual apps on your phone.
I wanted to ask, if I'm posting something, so how do I make sure that it's reaching the right audience? It's not considered as spam. Do you have any writing tips or adding hashtags, or how do I make it look like that?
So on most social media sites right now, hashtags are pretty much irrelevant. Instagram has basically came out and said they're not useful. It's just a way to get extra keywords in there at points. And I think that's a good way to answer your question is very similar to SEO and website design. You should be including keywords in your descriptions and captions, as well as in the media that you're sharing. So if you're sharing an image or like a graphic, these social media sites can read and do read captions and videos as well as graphics. So including as many keywords as possible. And I think that also comes with thinking of a good hook for your social media, right? Better reach is always going to start with the first few seconds. There's a book called Great Leads, and it's all about writing really good first lines of copy. So I recommend that book if you want to check that out.
Who's the author of that book?
I'm totally forgetting. I just read it too.
Do you have any experience or examples using, for example, Reddit or some type of platform like that that's more technically inclined?
Yeah, so I'll give you a great use case for Reddit. So Reddit obviously is a little bit different. I don't consider it social media, but it is a great way to cross-promote what you're doing. So if you create multiple Reddit accounts, and you can get caught doing this, and you will get flagged, but if you do it well, you can create multiple Reddit accounts and basically populate a list of, like I've seen local businesses do it. I'll give you this case of, hey, I'm looking for the best restaurants in Buffalo. And then in another Reddit account, after some other people have responded, you go in and you comment. But then months later, once the post has lost traction, you go through and you pin that top comment that you left, and then SEO actually recognizes that. But if you start doing things like tagging their Instagram and whatnot, all of that talks together. So I recommend doing stuff like that. You just got to be really careful with that approach and make sure you're not making it too obvious that you're always promoting. But there are a lot of people who are in the SEO space who use Reddit in that method, and they pair the social media with that. So maybe that's a cool tip.
And from the feedback from a startup minimal viable product, putting it out there,
Mhm.
you had any experience? Because I found that as a really good tool there, and a lot of people willing to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing that is really working well on social media right now of all types is showing the process. All of us are in a constant process of learning and growing, and startups are a prime example of that. They're exciting, people want to see them, and if you're showing a real case of you, this is me day one of starting my business, that type of content works really, really well. And even if you do that in word form on Reddit, that's going to perform better than saying, oh, here's my product, here's my service. If you document your process of creating an app and say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I learned today, this is the mistake I made, it's so much more valuable that way too. You're educating, you're entertaining, and possibly even inspiring other people to start their journey.
Is there any benefit or drawback to scheduling versus like not scheduling and like going in daily and doing posts?
So I have found that it used to be that some social media sites would throttle the scheduled post from getting views. As far as I can tell now, most of them that are well integrated won't do that. I will say that I have done tests with Instagram and TikTok, where if you post the same video, if you post it first on Instagram, TikTok will show it to less people. So you almost want to post TikTok, then Instagram, but I suggest just flopping the posting schedule. Sometimes that helps, but if the platforms are recognizing that you're posting the same content, sometimes it gives a red flag. But in general, I recommend mixing it up, and then you should avoid those issues a little bit. Good question.
Are there any particular days of the week where your post might get more traction than the other days?
Any days that, yeah, so posting times, I say great content will always perform, but there are better times to be posting, and usually that's middle of the week and during lunch hours. So like 11 o'clock is usually a good time to be posting. It gets your post out right before most people are taking lunch. And that's obviously dependent on what time zone you're in, right? So if you're catering to the whole United States, people are in different time zones, so it might be different. But if you're catering specifically local, that could matter more. It really depends on what your goals are, but I think the moment you start worrying about what time you're posting, you might be less focused on the actual content of the post. So I'd say, if great content's always going to perform. So focus on the content first and then schedule it up. Yeah.
Have you had experience with these automation farms, these automation services, and these farms where they, for example, I quickly made something for somebody, Selenium from Python, developed something, and it goes through this feed and starts liking everything automatically. We run that over and over. But there's services that offer that in actual equipment you buy, license multiple, set up multiple accounts, etc.
Yeah, so his question was automation bots and engagement bots on social media. Have I had experience with them? I have, and I say stay as far away from those as possible. So I had a client who had over 100,000 followers, but more than half of them were fake. And because of that, every time we posted, his reels got 0 engagement, because all of the bots were not adding to watch time. A lot of these social media sites, they value the amount of time people are staying on your content and the amount of time you're spending on your content. One issue with AI and scheduling posts potentially is that when you're copying and pasting into your browser, for instance, LinkedIn pays attention to how long it takes you to write a post. So if it realizes you wrote it in 5 seconds because you copied and pasted it, it's not going to share that to as many people. And it's the same thing with watch time and all that with those automation farms. For some people, maybe it can give them a leg up. I've never bought followers myself, But as I said, I tried to dig my client out of a hole that he bought himself into, and it didn't work, honestly. Like, it's so hard to, we ended up creating another account for him.
Well, battling then. How about battling? I guess it's automatically, platforms are already battling it on their own. There's no reason to.
Yeah, so like battling it, if you didn't buy 50,000, you might be able to go through and automatically, like, manually remove them. And maybe you can make an AI agent to do that, I don't know. But in general, you want to make sure you remove all those followers and just stick with like the actual real people who will see your content. Great question.
If I want to post about my professional space, Code and Coffee, and then like a personal brand, how do you balance that on social media? Like, should you stick with one brand per platform, or like, what are your thoughts kind of on that space?
So I think it depends on the use case. So if there's a good amount of overlap in your industry, so for instance, you're in software, you're AI, and you're also doing Code and Coffee, that establishes you as an authority figure if you're posting about both. But if, for instance, I'm a musician, I'm a runner, and I make videos, it becomes a little harder to balance all of that. But that being said, I think if you can relate it in a way that, so for instance, if I were to create a video of me playing guitar and it's super cool editing and showcasing the video skills as opposed to, oh, I'm just playing guitar, maybe that's how you balance it, right? I think you just got to find the crossover where your passions overlap. And I would say one thing that I've found can hurt brands is some people are very political, and that's no problem for many people when they see that on social. But if you're a business, you are representing your entire company. So you got to be careful with politics and who you're following, and involve. Like, if you cover a song that happens to be by a musician who's now well hated, like, that's a representation of your company as well as you. So I think it's just that balance that you got to strike, and I think every case is going to be different.
I don't post at all. I just kind of work on things, and I think.
Let's change that.
Yeah, my question, when you do want to change that, when you started doing this more, thinking about like how you wanna have yourself perceived, how you wanna put yourself out there, did you want to think about the persona of you and how you want others to see, after you post it too, how to go about that?
That's a great question. So he asked, did I think about my persona before posting on social media, and two, how did I go about it? So yes and yes. So when I first started posting, I was largely using social media to promote things that weren't me. So I was never the face of the social media accounts. Like, I was 10 years old running these things, so I shouldn't have been. And I'm glad that my parents wouldn't have allowed that, right? So I was promoting things that were outside of me, and that allowed me to, as I got older, approach social media similarly. So I've always looked at social media as a way to build brands and relationships through it. So my persona, as I've started to develop my Retune marketing brand on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, has become it's progressed as my business has. But I think the biggest thing was just leaning into who I am and trying to show the most authentic part of me. At first, I was doing a lot of graphic work for my social media, and then I realized like that is just not my strong suit, in the sense that it doesn't showcase who I am, and people buy from people. So I just recommend showcasing your personality, whether that be through video or your good writing. So I think if you are you're a really good writer, then you should be focused on LinkedIn, and you should be writing as much as possible on LinkedIn. If you're really good on camera, you should be filming videos, and you should be on Instagram and TikTok. And if you're really good with taking pictures, Facebook, Instagram, like those, the platforms are different, and everybody's got their strengths. So just lean into your strengths and try different things out. I think it's a learning process, like anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.